Friends, see here, what do you mean by forecasting and the decision making? So first, forecasting. So forecasting means what? Simply the prediction, right? We all very much aware about the weather forecasting. So in weather forecasting, we'll get the idea about the what will be the weather today, right? So similarly, forecasting means the process of predicting or estimating the future based on the evidence from the past and the present. So see, what is the forecasting? In forecasting, you predict or the estimate what will be the future, and based on what? Based on the evidence from the past and the present. So for example, see how the weather forecasting works, right? It is based on the past experiences, right? So in the previous year, what was the weather today, right? In previous 10 years, what was the weather, right? Apart from that, they are having some geological concepts also, right? So in generally, if we talk about the businesses, right, what is the forecasting? Forecasting means simply predicting the future or estimating the future based on what? Whatever the past experiences and whatever the present conditions. Okay, so based on that, we do estimate the future. Now very simple, see, prediction serves as the foundation for the premises. So here you have to understand, what do you mean by premises? Premises means the assumptions you are doing. Premises are the assumptions, and prediction will be the foundation for the premises, right? So we predict something, right? So that will be the foundation for the assumptions we are doing. Okay, now come back to the forecasting. So forecasting, we are having types of the forecast. Okay, so you understand what do you mean by forecasting, right? We are having types: long term, medium term, and the short term. Okay, so long term means this is having range 3 to 5 years or more than 5 years. Medium is generally 1 to 3, and short is less than 1. Okay, this you have to remember. Okay, now we are having the types of the forecast. First is long term forecast. So the forecasting for long term typically cover the period from 3 to 5 year. So if you are doing the future prediction for the period of 3 to 5 year, so we can say this type of the long term forecasting. Very easy. It gives a comprehensive perspective of the company's monetary requirement as well as the availability of the investable surplus in the foreseeable future. So basically, see, when you are doing long term forecasting, it generally it is a comprehensive in nature. Means what? It is detailed in the nature, right? Because we are planning for the longer duration. It is comprehensive in the nature, right? So obviously it will give idea about the monetary requirement for the 3 to 5 year, as well as what is available you are what is the surplus amount you are having for the purpose of investing for 3 to 5 years. Okay, so it is important to have the long term forecasting, right? So you just remember here, long term forecasting, it is comprehensive in the nature, and it is having generally 3 to 5 year or more than 5 year. Okay, so this is the long term forecasting. Okay, generally it is +5. Generally it is +5, but in your Macmillan book it is given 3 to 5 years. Okay, now next is what are the advantages of the long term forecasting? Okay, so we are predicting the future of a company, right? It is comprehensive in the nature. Mainly it is based on the how money company will require for the next 3 to 5 year, and whatever the extra funds company will have for next 3 to 5 year. The future about that is long term forecasting. So what are the advantages? So improved asset management. So asset management will be improved because you are predicting the money requirement for the 5 years. Systematic leveraging and the deleveraging. Leveraging means what? Getting the most advantages, getting the use of the asset most, right? So this is leveraging. So there will be a systematic leveraging, and the deleveraging means company will have idea which asset that can be used at the most you can use the asset. That is the leveraging. Okay, so there will be a systematic leveraging and the deleveraging. Multiplication of earning through the maintenance of a cash reserve. So you can predict the money requirement for the 3 to 5 year. You can predict how much you can invest for 3 to 5 year. Okay, this is long term forecasting. So obviously your earning of company will get increase, right? Now evaluation of a variance in order to monitor the performance. Means what? You are going to evaluate the variance for monitoring the performance. So for 3 to 5 year you are predicting something, so you will get idea about the variance, means which things are going to vary first year, second year, third year. There is some variation in your prediction, so you will get the variance, right? Evaluation of variance, that means you will get idea for each year how much the variance than my predicted value, right? So that will be easy to monitor the performance, right? Next, these are the advantages. Now what are the disadvantages for the long term forecasting? If you are forecasting for the longer duration, then the unpredictable nature of the economy. So if you are planning for the 5 years, right, you are predicting for the 5 year, but in that 5 year there may be a recession, there may be a depression in the economy, there may be an increase in the unemployment in the economy, because period is high, period or duration is 5 years, right? It is a very more high duration. So that's why you cannot predict the nature of the economy. That's why that can impact on your business, right? So it is the disadvantage. Next, absence of the historical knowledge. So if you don't have the historical knowledge, right, because you are predicting for the 5 year, okay, so this is the long duration, right? So due to this there may be a chances that historical knowledge you don't have, right? So that's why it is a disadvantage for the long term forecasting. Next is the deficiency of the appropriate range of the technology. So it may happen because 5 years is very high, right, in today's era. Why? Because in the 5 year new technology will come up, right? But you are forecasting for the full 5 year. So but within that 5 year, so many things will happen. Now today, every day there is new technologies evolving, so there may be a deficiency in the range of a technology, right? Next, the limit imposed by silent data on the Excel. So it may happen, right? There are some limitations always in the Excel data, right? So that can be a disadvantage for the long term forecasting. Okay, so these are basic disadvantages. Now what do you mean by the medium term forecasting? So medium term, generally it is having 1 to 3 year. If you are forecasting the future for 1 to 3 year, then it is a medium term. For making relatively minor strategic decision pertaining to the function of the firm, projections over the medium term are generated. So when you use the medium term forecasting, so when you are taking decision which are minor in the nature, so minor decision on what? Strategic, right? So minor strategic decisions you are taking about the company, then it will be the medium term forecasting. So remember, we have discussed first is long term. Long term is what? Comprehensive in the nature. The decision which are comprehensive, that are taken for the long term duration. Now for a medium term, the minor and strategic decision, the decision which are minor in the nature, are generally pertain to the medium term forecasting. Okay, now see, they play a crucial role in the operational budgeting as well as the business budgeting, and the budget of the firm is formally based on the projections. Okay, so see, when you going to paper the budget, okay, remember the keyword budget. When there is a word budget, you have to understand it is the medium term forecasting. Got it? So budget is always based on the medium term forecasting. Okay, remember, operational budgeting, business budgeting, or even overall budget of the firm, it is based on the these production, means the medium term forecasting. Okay, now third is what? The short term forecast. Short term means what? Having the period less than 1 year. So short term forecasting refer to the planning that is done for the period that is relatively brief, means what? Around less than 1 year. So the planning period between less than 1 year and the duration ranging from 1 to 6 months. Okay, it is generally less than 1 year. Okay, somehow it is 0 to 6 months. Okay, so this is what? The short term forecasting. Okay, now what are the advantages of short term forecasting? Very easy. It reduces the need of time and money, because the time duration is short. That's why the time will require short, and as time is less, money will be saved, right? Next, assessing the current state of the company's finance. So as the time duration is less, 0 to 1 year, that means you can access you can assess what is the current state of the finance of the company. Conducting the performance scenario analysis in order to take the preventive action. So you are predicting future for less than 1 year, so you can come to know what the action you should take right? That is what the performance scenario analysis you can do, and you can come to know what action you can take. Okay, now next is what are the disadvantages of short term forecasting. Now see, the technology has very high starting price due to its complexity. See, if you are doing the short term forecasting, you need a technology which is having very high price, because we can say it is a costly. So what is disadvantage? Costly. It is a costly due to the technology. Payable account and the receivable account are quite difficult to understand. So here in short term, you are very much aware, right? Account payable, sundry account payable, account receivable. So it is very much difficult to understand at a beginning level, right? So, and it comes under which category? It comes under the short term category. Okay, so it is quite difficult to understand. Then precision down to granular level is required. What do you mean by it? See, precision is gets down means what? See, if you want accuracy, then at a minor level, at a small minute level, it is required. Okay, so see what happen in terms of the short term forecasting, the precision down to granular level is required. So when you require the accuracy at a micro level, at a small level, you need to have the precision down. Means what? If you need the accuracy at a small level, means see here time duration is involved, time duration is small, right? So what happened here, you have to understand. See here, precision down to granular level means what? Simply it is a disadvantage, right? And why it is disadvantage? Simply see here, it is a disadvantage because you need accuracy at a small level. Why? Because you are forecasting for short duration. That's why you need accuracy at a small level, and this is the disadvantage of the short term forecasting. Precision down to granular level is required, means you need accuracy, there is the precision at a small level, granular level. Now late decision owing to limited collaboration. So see here time is less, that's why if you do there is a limited collaboration, so late decision owing to limited collaboration. If you know the collaboration, right? So one company can collaborate with the other company, but here time is involved, time is very less, that's why there is a less chances of being collaborated. Okay, so less collaboration. So these are what basically the disadvantage for the short term forecasting. Okay, so we have learned what is a medium term, what is short term, and what is a long term. Now we'll discuss what is the forecasting process and its elements. Okay, so a different situation will have different steps and the elements for the forecasting purpose. Now one by one we will discuss. See, we'll be discussing the what is the forecasting process and what are the elements in the forecasting process. So we will discuss one by one. First element in the forecasting process means how the forecasting process works, right? So there is some structure for the forecasting process. One by one we'll study that structure. Okay, now see here, first you have to identify and develop the structure. Okay, identification and developing the structure means what? Factor affecting the future event are too much complex, and here these are the innumerable, that is neither feasible nor desirable to study the to study and discover all of them. So see what factor affect the future event. Okay, that factors you have to understand. Okay, to understanding that factor is not feasible and even not desirable, right? For what? To discover all the factor. So for that purpose, see, identifying and developing the structure means what? Simply see, manager and the forecaster should identify the strategic factor. See, you are going to study all factor which affect the future events or the future output is not feasible. That's why the strategic factor manager or the forecasters should study, right, which affect the future event. So it calls for the analyzing internal and the external factor and discovering the relation between them. So instead of discovering all the factor which affect the future, right, you should study only the strategic factors. Okay, and for that purpose you should understand what are the internal factors, what are the external factors that have impact on what? On the future result, that is the forecasting, right? And you should understand the relation between them also. This is what basically identifying and developing the structure, right? First, now second element is what? second process step is what? Estimating the future course of action. Means what? Once you have structure, means once you have the factor, internal factor, external factor, relation between them, right? These are the strategic factor. Then next step is what? To make the rational forecast. So based on that structure, you can do the forecasting, right? Now next is what? Analysis of the deviation in the previous forecast. Okay, this is the third. Okay, so next is what? We should analyze the major deviation from the past prediction, and we have to find the reason why there is deviation. Means what? Today you have done the analysis for the forecasting. Okay, what is this is the result, but previously you have done this was the result. Then why there is a difference between these two results? The deviation you have to understand. Okay, so these are very three elements of the forecasting. First, you should develop the structure. Second is what? Then once you have the structure, then you can estimate the forecasting. You can do the forecasting, that is estimating the future course of action or the future course of business. And third is what? Then you can analyze the deviation based on the previous forecast. Okay, so these are basically three steps or three elements in the forecasting. Okay, now see here, it should be used to refine the existing procedure of the forecasting to improve the quality of our present forecast. Okay, so whatever the analysis you are doing, analysis of a deviation from based on the previous forecast and today's forecast, that must be used for redefining or refining the existing procedure of the forecasting. Okay, so that will be so that what? The next forecasting will be more precise. Okay, now next is decision making. So what do you mean by decision making? Decision making means ability to take the decision. So actual selection of one course of action from several alternative, it is the simply decision making. So you are having, suppose this, right? You are having these 7 balls. So out of that one ball you have to choose. That means you have to take decision which ball is good for the bowling. Okay, so decision making means simply selecting the best alternative, right? So decision making is a rational process and have a high degree of effectiveness. It should be based on the systematic analysis of all the relevant facts and not based on just intuition. Okay, what do you mean? But intuition means you feel that it will success, it will get success, gut feeling, right, about the success. That is intuition. Okay, so when you take the decision, you should not take based on what you feel. It should not be based on the feeling. Okay, it is based on the relevant facts and about the and on the systematic analysis. Okay, so very simple. When you take the decision, you should be having some backup about the analysis and the fact, and not only the gut feeling about the success. Okay, now what is the hierarchy of decision maker? So hierarchy of decision makers means, see, in bank we are having different decision maker. To sanction the loan, bank manager is there. To sanction next level, regional manager is there, zonal manager is there, right? So these are what different hierarchy we are having, different power bank has given them for sanctioning the loan. So taking decision whether to sanction the loan or not, right? So similarly, we have to discuss hierarchy of the decision maker. So the importance of the various decision required to be taken in an organization is not equal, right? So generally, top management concentrate on the crucial or the strategic decision. For example, say board policy. See, in the branch manager, what branch manager take decision? So which staff can do what work? Okay, this is the branch manager. Now regional manager. Okay, so what decision can be taken? Who will be the branch manager, right? Who will be the branch head? Okay, in which branch? That will be taken decision by the regional manager. Zonal manager, right? Zonal manager will appoint what? The regional manager. Who will be the regional manager for this region? Okay, so these are means what? Different hierarchy will have the different ability, different power to take the decision, right? So we can say hierarchy is also important in case of decision, right? So see here further, decision relating to the routine matter will normally delegated to the middle or the lower level management. So top management means, say, the board of the bank, right? So they will have some strategic decision. They will make the board policy or loan policy. Okay, it is generally made by the top management, say board of director. Apart from that, risk management policy, that is formulated by the board, right? So but small level, sending one staff to other branch for the purpose of deputation, right? So routine matter, these are the routine matter. So that routine matter are generally taken at the lower or the middle level management. Okay, very easy. Now see here, decision by groups. So what do you mean by decision making by groups? So instead of one person, so multiple person will be involved for making the decision. This is what, this is the decision making by the groups. Very simple. Now whenever a group of people makes a decision, the process becomes more comprehensive and as compared to the way decision taken by the individual. So see, taking decision instead of one people, many people are coming together to take the decision. For example, instead of MD taking the decision, the board of director is taking the decision, means MD is only one person. In board of director there are say 10 person. So taking decision by one individual and taking decision by 10 person. So simply it is the decision by the, here decision by the group, right? So when a particular decision is to be made by the individual or the group, depend on the policy of the organization and thinking of top management, right? So it is very easy. So you have to just understand, decision by group means multiple people, the group of people combinedly take the decision. Now what are the advantages of the group decision? Detailed evaluation. So when group is involved, the alternative are evaluated more thoroughly as compared to the when the individuals take the decision. So when obviously when multiple people are involved, there will be the detailed evaluation. Okay, so different people have their own idea, so there will be a detailed discussion, detailed evaluation. Next is what, implementation of the decision is easier. See, as the feeling of involvement is more widespread, it is not taken as the imposed decision, so implementation easier. See, suppose there are 10 people who are taking the decision, okay, so they all are agreed to implement that decision. So everybody in that group will have feeling that I have taken the decision, now I will help in the implementation also. Now see another case, only MD has announced one circular and that everybody has to follow. So all people will, what they will think, that MD has just imposed that decision on us. Okay, so here the implementation is easier in case of the group decision, right? So implementation will be easier in case of the group decision. Third advantages is what, enhanced team spirit. So the member in the decision making are being motivated and have better sense of unity for the purpose among them as they make the decision collectively. So here the decision is taken collectively, so there will be a more enhanced team spirit, more motivation, right? So these are the advantages for the group decision, collective decision. Now see here, what are the disadvantages then in group decision? Very simple. See, it is a time consuming and costly. Why? See, many persons are involved in the group, right? So the process becomes time consuming and the prompt decision is difficult to come. So the cost is involved. Why cost involved? Because there are more number of meeting will be held, because more number of people and more data will be collected from different sources, so the more cost will be involved. Okay, that's why it is a time consuming and the costly. Next, disagreement and the indecision. So obviously more people are involved, right? So they will have their own viewpoint, own opinion will have, right? So that will result into the conflict and blame games. Okay, so unanimous decisions are very much difficult. Sometimes the group is not even able to take the decisions. Okay, so more the people are involved, more will be the disagreements, right? And sometimes it is very much difficult to take the decisions also, because there may be a lot of difference between the opinion of the individuals, right? So it may happen of a disagreements. Okay, and it may result into the indecisions in decisions. Okay, now what is third disadvantages? No participation or the domination. Now what happens? See, no participation or domination means sometimes one or more member in the group may shrink their responsibility, resulting into the lack of contribution. Okay, also one group member is dominating in nature, so view of other do not get reflected in the result. Means what? No participation or domination means what? See, suppose there are 10 members in the group. Okay, out of that 10, only one who is very much smarter and brilliant, so he imposes his idea on that 10 members and say it is a group, and then it will be announced as a decision. So it is called as the domination. So out of 10 members, okay, so 7 members are not interested to share their views, So it is what? It is the no participation. So it may happen in the group decision that no participation or the domination. Okay, so these are what these disadvantages about the group decision. Okay, now see here, next is what are the various condition for decision making. Okay, see various condition for the decision making. So the condition prevailing for the decision making may different for different organization. Okay, so different organization have different condition. Generally we can say broadly we are having three scenario or three conditions you can say. Okay, so which are that we are having different, what are the conditions for decision making? So we are having certainty, we can have the risk, or we can have the uncertainty. So these are three conditions broadly we can say. Broadly we can say certainty, risk, and the uncertainty. Okay, so now see here, what do you mean by certainty? Certainty means surety, right? So very simple. So see, if the decision maker knows exactly what is going to happen, if the decision maker know what is going to happen, that is certainty, right? So it is a condition of certainty. It is he is able to precisely forecast the outcome. However, such a condition can rarely expected, okay, in the real businesses. So what do you mean by certainty? Certainty means what? If you are going to make the decision, for example, you make the decision and you are very much know what will be going to happen about in the future, that is what the condition of the certainty, right? It is practically rarely expected. Okay, so practically it is almost very much less possible. Okay, next is what? The risk. Okay, next is the risk. Risk means what? Very simple. When information is less available, when information is available only partially, or it is insufficient to make the estimate about the outcome precisely, then decision is to be taken under the condition of risk. So when you are having less information or the partial information which is not sufficient to take the decision, then we are having under the risk, right? So in the real life, managerial decisions are mostly based on the risk condition. Okay, so first we have discussed here the certainty, where you are very much aware what will happen in the future. So based on that you take the decision, that is certainty. Okay, now if you take the decision when very less information is available or partial information is available, it is very much practical. Okay, so there is a risk. So always in real life also, when you take the decision, it is based on the risk condition. Okay, now see here, as the outcome is not certain, probability is assigned to each estimated outcome. So see, in the risk we are not sure what will happen, so here probability come into picture. When a probability estimate is assigned to expected outcome based on the past experiences, then it is called objective probability. And if it is assigned based on the intuition, it is called subjective probability. So objective means what? See, objective means what? See, you know very much multiple choice question. Okay, objective and subjective, you know, objective means particularly out of option 4 only one is correct. Subjective means descriptive, right? So in the same way you have to remember, objective probability means what? The probability based on what? The past experiences. So here past experiences are important in case of objective, right? So if you have experience, right, then you can say particularly which is correct, right? So in case of subjective, based on the intuition means what? Based on the positive gut feeling, you are having positive gut feeling, so you will write descriptive, right? So in exam, say which exam will be easy for you? So selecting the correct option, you may get a wrong because you are not having the knowledge, but writing the paper in the descriptive in the nature. Okay, so it is very easy. If you have somehow knowledge, you can write you can get at least 2 marks out of 5. So in the same way you have to remember, right? So if you have the past experience, if you are drawing probability based on the past experiences, it is objective in the nature, and it is called objective probability. But if it is having based on the intuition, means only based on that feeling of a gut feeling about the success, gut feeling about the success. If the probability is based on you are feeling that we will get success, right, there is intuition, then it is called subjective probability. Okay, so that two you have to understand, objective and subjective. Okay, now risk is means what? When you are taking the decision when less partial information or less or insufficient information is available. Okay, now it is the category of risk. Now next is what? The uncertainty. Uncertainty means what? When decision maker feel that probability of a various estimated outcome cannot be assigned. It is called situation of uncertainty. Certainty means you are very much familiar, you are very much sure that it will happen. But uncertainty means the estimated outcome cannot be assigned. It is what? The uncertain. In such a situation, there is no way of measuring the likelihood or attached to each estimate. Okay, uncertainty means guaranteed, you can say it will not happen simply. Okay, so you cannot assign the probability or the estimate, so guaranteed you can say it will not happen. It is the uncertainty. So I repeat what we have discussed. Okay, we have discussed here the condition for the decision making. So we are having three condition basically, or the three scenario. You can be certain about decision, you can be uncertain about decision, you can having the risk about the decision. So practically we are following the category of risk, right, when partial information is available. Okay, so certainty we have discussed, then we have discussed the risk and the uncertainty also. Okay, now next is what are the principles of decision making? It is very easy. So there are there are few principles, which if followed by the decision maker will be helpful enhancing the probability of decision being correct. So if you follow the principle of decision, principle of evidence, principle of identity, then the probability of whatever decision you taking will be correct. Got it? So what are the principle? Principle of definition, principle of evidence, and principle of identity. Okay, so let's discuss one by one. What do you mean by principle of definition? Now see here, the correct identification of the issue involved goes a long way in arriving the better decision. Therefore, it is important to be aware exact problem. After the exact problem have been correctly identified or defined, the work of decision maker will be easy. So what do you mean by principle of definition? In the principle of definition, you have to understand what is the exact problem. Okay, so you know what is exact problem, then you can take the decision. Unless until you don't know what is the problem, how can you take the decision? So you have to understand what is exact problem, and once you know exact problem, you define, and that means you can define the problem. You know the problem exactly, then you can be, it will be very easy to you take the decision. This is what the principle of definition. Got it? So simply remember, principle of definition means you know the definition of a problem, or you can know exactly what is the problem. Okay, this is what the principle of definition. Okay, now next is what? Principle of evidence means what? When the decision is based on the evidence, it is likely to be better than the decision which are not based on the evidence. So if you have some evidence, right, and if you are taking decision based on that evidence, okay, so the decision taken based on the evidence and decision taken based on not having the evidence, so which will be better? Obviously the decision which is based on some evidence, it will be having more accuracy, right? So this is the principle of evidence. Okay, now very simple. Now third is what? Principle of identity means what? See, in a decision making process, it is important to consider the viewpoint of all the people involved before making the final decision. Identity means what? All the people, you have to consider the opinion of all the people involved, then you have to take the decision. This is what? The principle of identity. Got it? So there are three principles. I repeat, principle of definition means the exact problem you have to understand, and then you have to take the decision, right? Next is what? Principle of evidence. In the principle of evidence, what you have to do here, you have to take the decision based on the evidence, because the decision taken based on the evidence will be having chances of more accurate. Principle of identity means here all opinion of all the people involved you have to take into consideration. Okay, so these are the three we can say principles in the decision making. Okay, now see, next we will see the terminal important MCQ questions. Okay, now see here, first, the term that most accurately capture the planning. So what do you mean by planning basically, right? So options are: and encompassing the procedure in which the planning, execution, monitoring of the plans are included, coming up with the idea how the goals for the organization can be accomplished, determining the goal for organization as well as the strategy to achieve these goals. The primary focus of the work is that done by the planner and the planning department. So what is correct? See here. What do you mean by planning? I already told you in the beginning. Planning is means what? Goals plus strategy. When you combine that, you will get the planning. Okay. Planning means having the goal and the strategy to achieve that goal is combined. You can see it is a planning. Okay. So C will be the correct option. Now next, see, the first thing you should do when you start planning. What you do in the first step? Setting the goal yourself is the first step in the planning. Okay, so setting the goal yourself is the first step in the planning. Okay, evaluating the alternative, finding out the strength and weaknesses, examining the result. So these are the steps later on. Okay, so first step, you should have the goal yourself. Okay, now third, which aspect of the planning is connected to the fact that planner typically have the high level of intelligence because they keep talking about their ability to evaluate the surrounding, forecast the future, evaluate all these factors in relation to the variety of the other options in order to choose the most suitable one. Okay, now see, the act of planning is an intellectual workout. Planning involves looking into the future. The most important part of the management is planning process, and the making choice is the intellectual part of the planning. So friends, here understand which aspect of the planning is connected to the fact that planners typically have the high level of intelligence. So obviously the act of planning is the intellectual workout. That's why we can say the planner is having high intelligence. Okay, so A will be the correct option. Okay, you can easily correlate. Here is given, right? Now the next question, the planning process is a set of foundation for. So what is the see, I have already told you, right, when we are discussing the planning, right, planning process is a set foundation for the controlling. So we are very much aware, right, planning, controlling, staffing, these are the functions, right? Now planning processes the set foundation for the controlling. Planning sets the foundation for the controlling. Okay, remember, important question. Now when exactly during the planning process does the most feasible plan become one that can actually be carried out? So most feasible plan at the time of developing the premises, the considering the various potential course of action, choosing between the available option or the establishing the objective. So most feasible plan means what? At the time of developing the premises. Premises means what? Assumption. So during the planning process, does the most feasible plan become one that actually be carried out at the time of the developing the premises? Developing the premises means developing the assumptions. Okay, so A will be the correct option. Next, these are the, so here see, for fifth, C is the correct option. Okay, so remember here for last, okay, I repeat, when exactly during the planning process does the most feasible plan. So most feasible plan means what? Most feasible, choosing between the available option. Okay, at the time of developing premise is not correct. Okay, so here I have to correct myself. Remember, the most feasible plan will be choosing between the available options. Okay, so C will be the correct option for fifth. Okay, you have to note it. Okay, now this is the end of this session. You can subscribe us on the YouTube, you can download the application Banker Zone, you can join our group on the Telegram, you can join our Telegram channel. Thank you friends, we'll continue our discussion in the next session.